Okay. Silvio Simac, welcome to Brett Russell Chats.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And mate, you're a world-renowned actor, particularly in the martial arts world, with the likes of working with Jet Li, Jason Statham, Keanu Reeves, and of course Scott Atkins, and many more actors in the martial arts world. On top of that, you're a Taekwondo master. And mate, your achievements are amazing. What got you into the world of martial arts? What got you into martial arts at a young age?
Well, I think, as in most kids of my generation, would have been inspired by Bruce Lee. Martial arts weren't so widespread at the time in 1970s. So when Bruce Lee appeared on the silver screen, as you remember, I'm sure yourself, he made such a huge impact worldwide. Very impressive. And Bruce Lee, as we know, he appeared in phenomenal shape. He moved with lightning speed, and it was choreography we'd never seen before. So naturally, he was drawn to a little child. I was very, very impressed on multiple levels. So Bruce Lee was definitely my initial inspiration to take up martial arts. Naturally, inspirations followed from various sources and fields afterwards. Yes. But Bruce Lee was my initial inspiration to look into martial arts and dwell into it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, exactly the same with me. I remember watching movies like The Big Boss and Enter the Dragon and all this as a youngster, and being just completely immersed in the world of what he created, which was amazing. And was there, obviously you started Taekwondo, and interesting enough, we have this in common. I actually did Taekwondo as a child myself. I started when I was 8 and did Taekwondo up to the age of 19 before I started my Kung Fu journey. But Taekwondo, I know for me, it was amazing. I mean, leg work that we did, the technique base, and I mean, what I loved about it was the discipline and the focus, especially as a youngster getting in, and I'm sure it would have been the same. And what was your journey with that? Did you, I know, you've lived in Europe all your life. Where did you start your journey with Taekwondo? Was it in Europe somewhere, or in London, or?
Well, my journey started off in London. I was 12 years old, and I remember on this particular occasion, my brother and I took a trip on holiday, and my brother and I were attacked. Well, lucky for me, I didn't get beaten up. My brother got beaten up. I was standing next to him, and I remember my shirt was covered in blood, and it was a terrifying experience for me as a kid. It really was. So I said to myself, I have to do something about this so I can look after myself in future. And that's when my seed for future development was planted. As soon as I came back from the holiday, I said to my brother, we both have to enroll into martial arts classes, and we both coincidentally started at the same time. My brother is 2 years older, but I remember my first day vividly when I started training. My goal and my dream was to become a black belt, because black belt signified someone who was very confident, very sure of themselves, very disciplined, and obviously they can look after themselves. So that was my goal from day one.
Yeah, no, 100%, and it's I know exactly the same with me. It was I think for me, I was always short. I've always, I'm 5'6", and I remember I felt I needed to defend myself and to be, and it sort of give me the edge. And similar to yourself, I remember walking in and just seeing all the black belts and just saying, right, I need to get one of those. And that's what it's, as you said, that's what it's all about.
Well, I believe your second question you asked me is fundamentally the most important question for anybody, because the reason why we start is gives us a purpose in life. And the bigger the why, the easier will be the how or the journey itself. And when we all listen to each other's stories, we all have that big why, that big reason why 45 years later we're still practicing the same discipline we started off in. So it's very interesting to hear, despite that we may have different reasons or different purpose behind it, the reason was big. The why was huge. That's why the journey is still continuing after all these years.
Yeah. Actually, you probably heard of. Actually, you would have, because I know he was into movies years back, but he's actually a very famous taekwondo master. And I was very fortunate to converse with him. My youngest was Grandmaster Heel Cho, and I think he was in a couple of movies in the.
Correct. I believe he was in Best of the Best with Simon and
He
Philip.
had a saying for
Yeah, he was in Best of the Best with
That's
Simon
right,
and Philip
yes.
Reed. I remember. No, I was funny enough. I was very inspired by him. I purchased many of his books. I remember those early books of Master Heel Cho. I never had the opportunity to meet him. Never met him.
No, I got to speak to him over the phone a few times, and he was a friend of my taekwondo master in Australia here, and but he had a saying, and it was martial arts, and taekwondo particularly, is the gift of confidence, and it was that was his saying, and I remember, he'd say, "Oh, it's good. You have the gift of confidence," and it was something that stuck with me, forever. And as you said, everyone has their journey, but they get that gift of confidence from when they start that journey, and it's a continual journey all the way through. So it's fantastic. It's great.
I really like that saying which you've just put forth, because I remember reading a book called "Confidence is a Child's First Weapon," because when you believe in yourself, it opens up so many doors for us. On the other spectrum of it, if we are afraid, if we experience fear, there's going to be closing the doors because you no longer believe in yourself. So I would say to any parent or any teacher, just build up the confidence of the child first. And as I'm sure you know yourself, when kids walk through the door, you build them up mentally before you build them up physically, because when they're confident, they're assured, I can do this, I can handle it, I can get through it.
Yeah. And so, Silvio, do you obviously well into taekwondo, you gain your black belt. Did you start instructing from a early age, or was that something that sort of you got into a little later on, or how did that work?
I actually started teaching taekwondo when I was 18 years old at Thames Valley University. When I graduated from my high school, my parents wanted me to go to university with a degree, so I went to do business economics. So Thames Valley University was where I started teaching. Taekwondo, because I had only I got my black belt when I was 17. Then I started teaching at 18. So I was at Thames Valley University, and I think it was a great opportunity for me to express myself. And we all know someone who teaches retains far more information than someone who's merely listening to a lecture or attending a workshop. So it served me in so many ways. But we all know that life is about giving rather than receiving. And it's only when you lose yourself in the service of others that you discover yourself who you are. And that's why teaching martial arts has given me that tremendous opportunity to find and discover who I was. So I'm very happy I started very early on.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I mean, I know, similar to what you're saying, it does actually help you in life in general with confidence, with particularly study or work in general. So yeah, obviously that would have helped you through your university studies and giving you that extra confidence. And probably a bit of side as well.
On multiple levels, it really has. And you know what? This is why in martial arts, we was talking about consistency and perseverance. I think if it wasn't for that confidence, I would have given up in my acting many times, because it's one of those roads which is very roller coaster, up and down. So it can be an emotional roller coaster. And I think you have to be quite strong emotionally to withstand those ups and downs. So it's crucially important to build mental strength before we build the physical strength behind it.
100%. And I was leading to that. And how did that get you? How did you get into the world of acting, and particularly martial arts acting. How did that happen for you? Did it sort of evolve from meeting someone, or just being in the right place? Or
To be honest with you, I always wanted to get into acting pretty much my whole life. And early on, before I even did the movies, I was doing some advertising for some supplement companies. I did a few TV commercials. So I did a bit of modeling beforehand, before I got into the silver screen with dialogue. But when I graduated from university, I was working for university's commercial development department for 4 years. But it wasn't my environment. So it was not happy. For me, it just did not feel right. And I remember one day, one of my colleagues phoned me up and said, I saw an advert in the papers. They're looking for stuntmen to go work for an agency, acting agency. So I picked up the phone straight away. And literally 3 weeks later, I gave up my job. I was off to Thailand to film Black Mask 2 with Scott Atkins. That's when we first met.
No way.
So obviously it was a big risk. I gave up a good career, which I had from university degree, which I graduated in. But for me, I didn't even think twice. When the opportunity arose, I knew this is it. This is my calling. I have to grab it straight away. And as I did, I grabbed it, went off to Thailand for 3 months and fell in love with the whole industry because I got to meet people who inspired me. I think being a teacher, you obviously hold a position where you inspire others, motivate them. But we all need leaders. We all need inspiration and someone who's going to guide us. No matter what level we are. So it was very important for me I was inspired by all these guys on film sets, working with Troy Harkins. Scott Atkins really inspired me to strive for better, strive for bigger. So when I came back to UK, I decided I wanted to pursue career in acting. And I did not want to resume to an office job where I was working 9 to 5. So I didn't go back to work. I wanted to stay out of my comfort zone to make sure failure was not an option, because I had no alternative financial source. So I had to purely rely on my acting and succeed in it.
That's awesome. And I mean, in saying that, what was it like? We start with Scott. What was it like working with Scott Atkins? Obviously, he's an absolute professional in what he does, and his martial ability is amazing. And no doubt yours as well. So what was it like being thrown in the deep end, or did they gradually build you up and with sort of scenes and stunt work and all that sort of stuff?
Well, I met Scott 26 years ago. Our first production was Black Mask 2, which was in 25 years ago in Thailand. We became very close friends. We lived, in fact, 10 minutes drive from each other. So we saw each other very frequently, training in the gym. And these were initial days of him breaking out. So he was struggling for work at the time himself. So we spent a lot of time together. We helped each other out on small jobs as well as big jobs. I pulled him in some productions. He pulled me in some productions. So we did 5 feature films together so far. But one thing I noticed about him is very single-minded on his quest. He's very single-minded. He knew exactly what he wanted from day one, and super focused, super focused. At times when he really struggled, he had no doubts he was going to succeed. He never gave up. He never quit. He went through it. He got through the struggles that he went through, and he stuck to what he did. But I'll tell you a story. I met Scott in China. I was filming the film with Keanu Reeves, A Man of Tai Chi, and Scott was doing a film with Scott was making a film with Dolph Lundgren in China, and coincidentally, he stayed in the same hotel as me during the filming. He was filming with. So I phoned him up. Scott, what are you doing? Oh, we're in the same hotel. Let's link up. So I went to Beijing. We socialized for 2 days, went out. This was many years after we did our first film in Thailand. And after day 2, he said, see you later, mate. He locked his door in his hotel and he's just revising his script day in and day out. I never saw him after that.
Wow.
I saw him just for a little bit and then he just locked the door. He's absolute perfectionist. And when I did the Undisputed 2 with him, with Isaac Florentine, he would do a scene. Director was happy. Director was happy with the scene. He said, okay, let's move on for the next one. Scott said, I'm not happy with that scene. Do you mind if I do it again? But because director has so much respect for him, he would say, okay, if you can do better, let's do another take. So he's very well respected in the field. He's absolute perfectionist. He always wants to give his absolute best.
No, that's amazing. I mean, in saying that, what's it like to work with Keanu? it would have been amazing. Man of Tai Chi, great movie.
I always say I've got the most impressive.
You must have been proud to sort of get that.
Keanu Reeves was one of the most. Keanu Reeves was one of the most down-to-earth people I ever worked with, and when he invited me to China to come work with him on Man of Tai Chi, he called me up on Zoom. So he appeared on the Zoom. I was ever so impressed and starstruck being on the Zoom with Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
And he said, "Why didn't you come over to China 1 week early just to acclimatize to the time difference?" So I flew over to China 1 week before. Unfortunately, I suffered from major jet lag. 1 week later, I was really struggling to sleep in China. He was the loveliest person I've ever worked with on multiple levels, and I'm sure you've read it many times in social media and the news. What a down-to-earth person was. On the last day of the shoot, my makeup would take at least an hour to take off. I had lots of scars all over my body. So because my makeup was taking too long to remove, the guy was locking my door. He left for Beijing to go to a restaurant. So I was locked outside my room where my bag was. But my room was right next to Keanu Reeves' room. So I was stuck outside my room. So Keanu said, come in to my room. So I remember I had a really long chat for about an hour and a half with Keanu. And he just struck me as the most wonderful, down-to-earth, approachable person. Very accommodating. There are 150 people working on film set, making sure your wardrobe is done right, you've got enough water, your chair is there, your makeup is done properly. Despite having this help, Keanu would still make sure you've got your water, you've got your chair. He's very caring, very nice guy to work with, and an absolute perfectionist when it comes to his work.
That's amazing. I was going to say, Silvio, I was fortunate enough years back. It was, I would have been in my mid to late 20s. I was late 20s. I was fortunate enough to work. I was training the stunt actors on The Matrix number 2 and 3. Yeah, so I was working. I wasn't actually working with the actors. I was actually working with the stunt actors. And
Yuen Woo-ping and Tiger Chan.
Yuen Woo-ping. That's right. Yes.
I know.
Yes. Yeah, it was my hero, Yuen Woo-ping. I mean, obviously around the set with people like Keanu was amazing, but Yuen Woo-ping, it was amazing. I know you've worked with.
I was very fortunate to work with Yuen Woo-ping on four different feature films, and my first one was Black Mask 2. When I did Unleashed with Jet Li and Scott Atkins, they finished filming Matrix 2 and 3 back to back in Australia. So I'll tell you a great story now. Jet Li's stunt double, he jumps on my back and starts to strangle me from behind. And then I grab him, I take him over my shoulder. This is supposed to be Jet Li performed by his stunt double. And as the guy landed on his shoulder, he dislocated the shoulder. And I was ever so apologetic, but after a while, he had a big grin on his face. So I said, why are you smiling? Why are you looking so happy? He said, I get to go home. I've been working for the last 6 months non-stop. I've not seen my family. He said, I just came from Australia. We did Matrix 2 and 3 back to back. And now we came to Paris to film Unleashed. He said, I've been away from home for 6 months. I get to go home. He dislocated his shoulder. So this is a similar story. But Yuen Woo-ping choreographed Unleashed. And his whole thing. But I was fighting Tiger Chan in Man of Tai Chi. Because Keanu Reeves was very impressed with Yuen Woo-ping and his team. Very impressed. After working on Matrix 1, 2, and 3, he wanted to make his own debut film, which was Man of Tai Chi. But he teamed up with Yuen Woo-ping and his team to make the whole film. So this was his first debut film, teaming up with Yuen Woo-ping to bring some great action-packed Hong Kong-style movie.
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah. I mean, just the experience that Yuen Woo-ping brought to the table, and just obviously from whether it be stunt coordinating to in his early days to producing and directing.
Right.
So, it's just phenomenal. I was lucky. I got to talk to him for a little while here and there, and I was just as a martial artist, and also a fan of particularly his older films. Amazing career. So it's it would have been for you. It would have been amazing, and I mean, obviously this goes back to the credit of your martial arts and your acting skills. It's awesome. And how was it wrapping that film up at the end? Obviously, it would have been hard work.
It was hard work. I mean, this was a Europa Corporation, Luc Besson production. Luc Besson is very, very demanding when it comes to his work. He's got very high expectations, as does Yuen Wu-ping. And whereas most Hollywood stunt coordinators would allow you some freedom of your own expression to express yourself in your own best way with your individuality, Yuen Wu-ping is very set in his ways. I love his creative side, but if he has something in his mind, he will keep shooting that scene until he gets exactly what he envisaged in his head. So he doesn't really give much leverage to express yourself in your own way. Very, very demanding, but so much to learn from him as well as his team.
Yeah. And I mean, it's quite interesting, isn't it? Because I was sort of thrust into the world of working with the acting martial arts world, and it's incredibly, people would think, it's people that don't know, but it's incredibly precise. It's yourself as a professional martial arts actor. I mean, I know because I was watching. It's take after take and shot after shot, and you have to be precise with your kicks and your choreography going through that stuff. And obviously, in film, time is money, so you've got to be on it. You've got to be precise and fit. And a lot of people don't realize this.
Absolutely, but you need to also be able to adapt yourself to the environment that you're working in, because martial arts moves are quite different to the moves on the film and TV. TV and film is larger than life, so you have to exaggerate. Whereas in tournaments or street fights, you would hide those techniques. You would not want to show your opponent what you're about to do. But on film, you want to exaggerate and show it off. But on this note, my first film, which was Black Mask 2 with Yuen Wu-ping, they were still shooting on film, 35mm film.
Wow.
All the action was shot 32 frames a second. All the action was shot in 28 frames a second.
Oh, wow.
To make it appear faster. So I remember in my scene, that's why if you watch the old Hong Kong films, everything looks like it's speeded up. It's not so much speeded up, they're just shooting less frames per second. So when I shot some of my scenes, Yuen Wu-ping came to me and said, "You're kicking too fast. Can you please slow down so we can capture the moves?"
Okay.
They were shooting on film, so because they're getting less frames per second, you wouldn't capture some of the shots. So we had to slow it down a little bit. But as you said, lots of preparation, lots of little tricks and stuff. Something I picked up from Yuen Wu-ping very early on. In Hong Kong, they like to use power powder. They will put some talcum powder on your shoe. So when you make impact, the dust comes off.
Okay, but yes.
This is something that you may not visually straight away register, but it looks more powerful. Because when you make that impact, there's a bit of dust comes off the jacket or the trousers or something. Plus, when you add the sound effects, it looks spectacular. So these are some of the things that they do in Hong Kong quite a lot.
That's awesome. And in saying that, Jet Li, I mean, working with Jet Li, obviously, I mean, besides his acting prowess and skills and time and effort on film, before that, Wushu champion, Chinese kung fu hero, really. I know he was studying at Shaolin for a while because obviously I'm into the Shaolin stuff, and then progressed into film and just really took over, certainly Hong Kong cinema and Chinese cinema, then the world. I mean, what was it like working with Jet Li?
Once again, I'm going to refer back to your what you said earlier on is Well, everything in life happens for a reason. Working with Jet Li, obviously, they threw me deep end of the pool. This is what you said, deep end of the
Okay,
pool.
yeah, into the deep
But
end. Yeah.
you learn so much quicker. And something that people often say is one fight on the street is equivalent to 6 months training in dojo, because the
Yes.
experience is just so much more intense. And I would say in the same way, probably working on one film set is equivalent of being in a film school for a year at least.
Wow.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
you learn so many things, and you open a watchful eye, and you take everything and you start to absorb it. So yes, I was thrown deep end of the pool, and I had so much to learn from him.
Yeah.
He wouldn't come to rehearsals. We would rehearse with the stunt team, with Tiger Chan and Yuen Wu Ping. They would film
Yep.
everything on camera. They would take it to Jet Li's room. He would watch the choreography, and he would pick it up next day just like that, because
Wow.
he's such an expert. He's done it for such a long time. He would watch the videos in his room. He wouldn't come to rehearsals, and he would just pick it up next day on film set.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's I mean, you can see it on film. I mean, just some of the older, probably more 90s styles, Hong Kong cinema stuff and Chinese cinema film. You just see the professionalism, the movements, obviously a natural of picking everything up with and being able to fit it in. And I know Yung Wu Ping, when I was talking to him, he mentioned Jackie Chan, and I saw his eyes light up, and he said to me that Jackie is he just has everything. It's just
For
I
sure.
think he just the biggest grin on his face. I could imagine the talent that he's worked with, and no doubt you've worked with, and that's amazing, absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's working with some of these guys, as we said earlier on, throwing someone in the deep end of the pool. You cherish each and every experience, and I've dwelled on it so many times afterwards. From each and every experience, you have something to gain. That's why when people ask me, what was your favorite movie? I don't really have a favorite film, because each one was a different experience, and I've learned something completely different from each and every one of them. But what's interesting, one thing I would like to share about story with Jet Li is one thing I didn't
Yeah.
realize until we met. He's very spiritual. Would be in the makeup room, same time in the morning. He would say hello to me. How was your evening? What did you get up to? We'd chat maybe for 5 minutes, and this is no exaggeration. He would close his eyes, and he had his beats, his meditation beats, and he would meditate and chant for literally an hour and a half to 2 hours. With his eyes closed, he would get his makeup, he would chanting and meditating while he's doing it every morning.
Yes, because he actually my shifu, his shifu, so my grandmaster, my Sifu's teacher, is the great master Su Si, and I believe Jet Li was taught for a period of time by the great master Su Si from the Shaolin Temple, and I believe that I was told by my Sifu that that's where he learnt Chan meditation and from the Shaolin Temple itself. And I did hear through the grapevine at Shaolin that he holds that very dear to him. So that's awesome. That's
Oh, no, it was amazing.
fantastic.
It was amazing to experience and see it. Yes.
Wow. Now, Silvio, obviously you still got things happening within your world of the martial arts film industry. What's for you now and beyond? Are you working on things now, or you're taking a little break, or what's happening for you at the moment?
As we know, I mean, movie industry's up and down. Sometimes you're very, very busy. Other times you may be going without work for months. Last year, coincidentally, was my busiest year ever. Last 2 years. Last year, I saw release of 5 different movies. I was in the States doing 3 films. I filmed 1 in Belgium, 2 films in UK. So it was a busy year. Now, what the future holds, it's not always certain. It's very uncertain industry. But I intend to try and keep the ball rolling forwards. Getting the momentum going, I think, is the hardest thing. Making that first step and trying to get the ball moving forwards. Once it's moving, it's somewhat easier because you're making the noise. So I'm going to try.
Yes.
I'm going to try my best to keep the momentum going. I've got a few things in the pipeline. I'm off to the US in 3 weeks for the martial arts mega weekend with Alan Goldberg. That's the biggest martial arts event on the planet. So I'm off there in 3 weeks' time. I've got a few other movies in the pipeline, so I'm gonna keep pushing forth.
No, that's great. That's fantastic. And I mean, yeah, the martial arts. Being a martial artist, obviously you're a martial artist first, and I mean it must be just incredible. You must sort of pinch yourself to be in films with martial arts. I mean, it's such a great career that you're having, and I mean you've had and you're having. I could only imagine. I know when I was certainly doing some of the film stuff, I was sort of on the periphery with Star Wars 2 that was filmed in Sydney, Australia, and the Matrix 2 and 3 stuff. But it's just amazing to share technique and for me, again, I was just working with the stunt guys, but it's amazing just to see your work or part of your work on film.
Of course. I mean, when you're working on a multi-million-dollar project or a film, it's really nice to know you're part of that project. You had something to contribute, either your experiences, your knowledge, or your wisdom, something that you can contribute and give. So obviously, it's always nice to be able to be part of that big picture and to contribute something and to be able to offer your skills that you've acquired over many years to someone else so they can succeed in their field. But one thing that's always fascinated me about films is you get hundreds of guys working on the same purpose, on the same goal, working towards it. So the synergy has to be absolutely amazing. But each and every one of those people, from the makeup, from the sound, from the camera guys, from the different departments, are absolutely cream of the crop in their field. And they inspire me, they motivate me as well. That's why working on these film sets, it's a great synergy between people of different skills.
And I was going to say, your training, how's that? Do you obviously have particular training methods to build up to a film, or are you constantly training? Like I know with myself, I have a training routine constantly, just mainly because I'm teaching and for my own training anyway. But do you have specific sort of set training to do certain films? And
I've got my specific training routine, which is all year round. But if I have a certain film coming up, I need to lose some weight or gain weight, then I make adjustments accordingly with my lifestyle choices. That's with diet as well as exercise. The fight choreography obviously needs to be very fluid, as you're familiar yourself. So there's something I'll start easing into more as the film approaches. Obviously going through very, very slowly first, then 50% of the speed, then 80% of the speed. As you do katas in martial arts, your fight choreography is pretty much the same. Your footing, your timing. So this is something I would start picking up 4 to 6 weeks before the shoot, so that I come across a lot more fluid.
No, that's great. It's I was going to say, if you ever need an Aussie Shaolin guy, you know where it is.
now that we've connected, absolutely, you're on the radar now.
Thank you. No, that'd be great. Well, Silvio, thanks so much for your time today. I know you're a busy man, and it's been fantastic talking to you. And I'd like to we'll keep in touch, and we'll get you on Brett Russell chats in the future. But you've had an amazing career, and you're having an amazing career. You're continuing to add to the martial arts acting industry and film industry. Thank you again for your time, and we wish you all the best for more action and more film coming forward.
Thank you very much. All the best.
On top of thank you.